Hello, everyone. I see more and more students joining and staff and everybody. So I'll give it a moment for everyone to be able to join us. Yay, it's great to see the number going up. Hi, Martha. Hi, May Marie. Hi, Sarah. Margarita. Our students are fantastic, aren't they? Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Mariana Silva, pronounced she, her, hers. And I know a lot of you. I teach in non-credit ESL. Welcome to our special event today with my colleague, Crystal Carothers. We are honored and blessed to have her here today. Her story is phenomenal, and I am in awe after reading, after listening, and still like somehow in disbelief. So thank you for joining us, colleagues, students, administrators, and Miracosta College community members. I am very pleased to introduce our guest speaker today, and I will tell you a few things about her. Crystal, with a master's degree in education, teaches non-credit ESL at Miracosta College, as well as various writing courses for UC San Diego's Extension's Copy Editing Certificate and Creative Writing Certificate. Crystal is a California-born educator who has taught English as a second language in both El Salvador and Spain. Crystal graduated with her bachelor's degree in political science from San Francisco State University in 2006. Following the completion of her bachelor's degree, she earned her TEFL teaching certificate in Madrid, Spain. After years of living and teaching abroad, she moved back to San Diego to obtain a Master's of Education in TESOL from Alliant International University in 2009. And I would like to have, of course, Crystal share her story in a moment. Prior to that, I would like to share with you a little disclaimer. The views and accounts expressed are the author's own and do not affect views of or serve as an endorsement by Miracosta College. So Cheryl will share her incredible life journey with us. And I don't want to strip anything from it or take away any of her time. Just one thing, students and colleagues and everyone attending, you will be muted throughout this session as Crystal will share her story. We have the Q&A that you can type your chat and you can type, sorry, not in the chat. You can type in the chat too, but use the Q&A for any questions you have or comments for Crystal. And at the end of the session, at the end of the speech, we will be able to address all those questions and Crystal will gladly answer them. If you want to chat with us and say little things, you're welcome to do that throughout the speech too. But keep in mind, you can use the Q&A throughout the presentation, or at the very end, you can also ask a live question. So you can ask Crystal directly. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for being with us. Thank you for your time. I will turn it over to Crystal. Welcome, Crystal, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mariana, and thank you everyone for coming. And Mariana, it says that I'm not able to share. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So I'm not sure if I can share my PowerPoint.
Nora can help us. Nora, do you mind, or am I able to?
Oh, I got it now. I saw the settings. So actually I could fix the settings myself. Okay, so everyone, I just wanted to share a PowerPoint as I go through my story. So give me a second to go ahead and bring that up. Move a couple things around. All right, so here we are. I'm going to go ahead and share my story, my personal story of overcoming cancer. Before we get started, I just wanted to go through a few questions, and the few questions I'll give you the answer, but just take a few seconds to think about these questions. So number one is, what is cancer? Number two, how common is cancer? In other words, what percent of men and women experience cancer in their lifetime? And number three, what are the three treatment methods that doctors use to treat cancer? Sorry, I had to take my speakers out. Can everyone still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I had to remove my headphones because Siri was kind of going crazy for a second. So, all right, I'm glad everyone can still hear me. So let's go ahead and go over these answers. So the definition of cancer is uncontrolled cell growth that forms into a tumor with the potential to spread through the body and invade organ systems. It turns out that cancer is very common, as you may already know. 1 out of every 2 men and 1 out of every 3 women statistically will experience cancer in their lifetime. And the 3 treatment methods that doctors use, you've probably also heard of. They are surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. So I want to go ahead and get started with my story, which started in February of 2018. I had just turned 35 years old, and I started to have lots of lower back pain. Everything was great in my life besides that, but I was having the lower back pain in my sacrum. And if you look at the picture on the right, it's the red part is the sacrum, which is basically the very end of your spine. And I kept going to the ER or the emergency room because I was in so much pain. And doctors took x-rays and they couldn't find anything. And they said, you probably have a disc problem, a herniated disc, or a bulging disc. And they told me that I would probably heal in about 4 to 6 weeks. But the pain kept getting worse and worse as time went on. And I asked multiple times for an MRI. They didn't want to give me one initially because they said, you probably don't need one. It's just going to heal. But I finally got them to give me one so that I could see if there was something really going on, which I felt like my intuition was telling me. So I got the MRI, and the doctors were shocked to find that I had a tumor on the sacrum the size of an egg. And it's not common, it's quite rare to have a tumor on your spine or even especially your sacrum. So that's why they were so shocked. The next step was to take a biopsy, which is a test to see whether the tumor is benign or malignant. And of course, malignant means that it is cancer. And after they did the biopsy, they diagnosed me with a rare bone cancer called chordoma. And I was told that it's very, very rare, that less than 1 in 1 million people have it. And I was also told that it's very difficult to treat. It's a very stubborn tumor, but I was also told that it's a very slow growing tumor. So the next thing I said to the doctors was, okay, well, how can we fix this? And they told me that surgery is the only way to fix this type of cancer or to get rid of it, because chemotherapy and radiation don't work for this type of cancer. And then I said, okay, sign me up for the surgery. But then I came to find out what the surgery would entail. And it turns out the surgery would entail amputation of the sacrum, loss of bowel and bladder function for the rest of my life. I would have to use a wheelchair and then a walker for 6 months to a year after the surgery. I would probably be on pain medication for the rest of my life due to the pain. I would have hardware installed, including metal plates, rods, and pins for pelvic stability. And they also told me you most likely will not be able to surf again. And this was very devastating for me to hear, because surfing has always been a big part of my life. It's one of my hobbies, one of my passions. So that hit really hard. And then if that wasn't enough, they said also one of the probable risks of this surgery is that you may never be able to walk normally again, because a lot of people with this surgery end up having to use a cane or a walker or a wheelchair. So obviously the surgery was quite brutal. And I told the doctor, there's no way that I'm having this surgery. I'm not going to do it. And he told me it's the only way. And then I said, I will get a second opinion. So what happened was I got a second opinion, a third opinion, and a fourth opinion. 4 different doctors told me that surgery was the only way. I even went to see the top specialist in the United States who was at UCLA, and he told me the same thing. And I still insisted that I'm not having this surgery. I'm only 35 years old and I don't want to live this way. And since it's a slow growing tumor, I should have time to figure out some other options. So the first thing I did was I started to explore alternative or natural therapies. I started to see a naturopathic doctor, and she put me on high dose vitamin C therapy, which is sort of known as a natural type of chemotherapy that's supposed to kill cancer cells. And she also put me on a lot of herbs and supplements that fight cancer. So I was probably taking around 50 or more pills per day. And my next MRI was only 6 weeks later in June of 2018. And the doctors told me it was slow growing and it had only been 6 weeks. So I was thinking probably the tumor is going to be about the same size, or maybe it could be even a little bit smaller because I've been doing these natural therapies. So I was actually hoping to possibly see some progress. However, once I got my MRI, I was shocked. The doctors were shocked. Everybody was shocked to see that it had grown 3 times bigger, and it was now the size of a grapefruit. And the picture on the right is actually my MRI, which shows the tumor kind of circled in that pink line. And the doctors were so shocked that they said they thought maybe I had been misdiagnosed, because they said chordomas is really slow growing. That's how they characterize this type of tumor. So it doesn't make sense that it grew that much. So they did another biopsy, but it turned out it was the same diagnosis. And so then I had a lot of pressure from doctors and family members and everybody to get the surgery. And the doctors kept telling me that the bigger the tumor gets, the more likely it is to spread. So that also just added a lot of anxiety for me and a lot of fear. So the next thing I did was I went to a hospital in Tijuana, Mexico called the Oasis of Hope Hospital. And it's a special hospital that treats cancer patients with natural alternative therapies. And the reason why how I found this hospital was because I met a woman who told me that she had stage 4 breast cancer. And then after going to this hospital, all of her cancer had disappeared and she was healed. So I started investigating this hospital and looking into it. The problem was that it was $30,000 for 3 weeks to stay. It's kind of almost like a hotel / hospital. It's very luxurious, but of course the cancer treatments that they provide are very expensive. And I didn't have the money. But the thing was, I was very desperate. So what I ended up doing was I put the cost on 4 different credit cards. So it was money that I didn't really have, but I basically borrowed the money from my credit cards. So I went there for 3 weeks. These are some of the pictures from that time. On the left, you'll see me with my nurses who were great. And then on the right, you'll see me in my hospital room. I got blood work every morning, treatments every morning. It was really a very nice place to be in. And behind me, you might see my surfboard, because I actually did bring my surfboard to the hospital because the hospital was right on the beach. And everybody thought I was kind of crazy for doing that. But I mean, surfing was just a big part of my life. And even though I was in some pain, a lot of pain actually during this time, I was still able to go in the ocean and surf a little bit. I was still in a lot of pain. So After 3 weeks, the doctors said, okay, we're going to give you another MRI to see if you have responded to any of the treatments that we had here. And I thought for sure, the tumor should be smaller because I paid a lot of money and all of these things should be working. However, when they gave me the MRI, the tumor was even bigger. It had not gotten like crazy big, but it was still growing. Maybe the growth had slowed, but it was still growing. So I was very devastated. And at that time, the doctors there in Tijuana at the hospital, who were very, very good oncologists, and they recommended something called proton beam radiation. And they had they had found some studies, one in Italy and one in Japan, that showed that proton beam radiation could help this type of tumor. It's a little bit different from traditional radiation. It's a little bit more targeted and there's fewer side effects. So I started to look for a doctor in San Diego that would treat me. And so I did find a radio oncologist, a doctor who would give me the proton beam radiation. But at first he wanted me to do the surgery. He said, because most of the studies show that surgery has better outcomes in terms of survival. But I insisted that I was not going to have the surgery. And he finally agreed to treat me, but I had to convince him. And he said, okay, I will treat you, but we have to hit it really hard with the radiation dose. So he explained to me that most cancer patients, when they get radiation, they have between 40 and 50 grays. That's the dose. But for my tumor, he said, because it's a stubborn tumor, he would have to hit it extra hard with a high dose of 77 grays. So I said, okay, sign me up. So in September of 2018, I signed up for the proton beam radiation therapy, and I thought it was going to be easy. However, it was not easy at all. It was insanely painful. And my pain increased, I don't know, tenfold. And the pain was so bad that I actually quit 2 different times because I said, I can't go anymore. I'm in too much pain. And so what the doctors would do is they said, okay, well, we're going to increase your pain medication so that you can continue coming and just finish the treatment. And I was always reluctant, but I always gave in and kept going because there was a lot of scare tactics. And if you don't continue the treatment, what's going to happen to you type of thing. But my pain was so bad at that time that I was not able to sit or stand or walk. I was basically laying the whole day, the whole night on my stomach. And then every time that I would go to my treatment to get in the car, I would have to lay down in the back. And my mom would drive me to my treatments. And I actually moved in with my parents at that time because I couldn't stand up long enough to like make myself a meal. So I was just having my mom was basically taking care of me. I could stand up for maybe 30 seconds or long enough to, maybe get a glass of water or go to the restroom. But that was about it, because if you think about it, the tumor's on the sacrum and it was wrapped in, on your sacrum, you have root nerves, and all of those nerves that go down your legs, all the way down your legs, including the sciatic nerve, all of that was like wrapped in the tumor. So when they started hitting the tumor with radiation, that's when my pain just increased massively. So that was that was a really hard time for me, trying to get through the radiation. And I also remember that it was really scary because of the pain medication. My mom actually had to get some training from the doctors about what to do if in case of overdose. So there was kind of this very delicate balance with the pain medication, because if they increased my pain medication too much, then I could die from the pain medication from an overdose. But if I didn't complete my treatment because I was in too much pain, then I could die from the cancer spreading. So it was definitely a scary time. But I did complete the treatment in November of 2018. And also there's a picture of a walker, because I was using a walker around that time. Like to get out of the car and go into the radiation treatment center, I would have to use a walker basically getting to and from places, but even just walking on the walker was really painful. And they couldn't give me a wheelchair because to be in a wheelchair, I have to sit. And it was just too painful to sit because of the location of the tumor. So I had an MRI at the end of my treatment, and I thought for sure the tumor has to be smaller because it was just so much pain, and I was finally doing like a real Western medicalized treatment that I really expected to work. So what happened was that I had my MRI and it showed that the tumor had gotten even bigger. It didn't stop, it didn't shrink, it was still getting bigger. So my doctor said, well, wait, because sometimes it takes more time for the radiation to start working. So he said, wait 3 more months until the next MRI, and then we'll see if you responded to it or not. So in February of 2019, I got my next MRI. And it was even bigger. And it actually was still growing somewhat quickly. And I just remember that my jaw hit the floor when I saw 14 centimeters. And that, later to conceptualize it, I found that it was about the size of a honeydew melon. And it was really the lowest point for me because I felt like I had tried everything. I had done naturopathic remedies. I had, done the Oasis of Hope Hospital and spent so much money. And then I also did this proton beam radiation and it was so painful. And so I became very depressed, very low. And I reluctantly decided, okay, there's nothing else for me to do. Maybe I just have to get the surgery. So what I did was I went back to UCLA to see the special surgeon. And he said, we cannot do the surgery right now because your skin is so damaged from the radiation. So we need to wait 3 more months. And he explained to me that if they did the surgery, right above my lower back where the radiation damage was, that the surgical wound would not heal. And if you have a surgical wound that will not heal, then you're at risk for infection, sepsis, and then death. So of course he was not willing to risk that. So he said, you need to wait 3 more months and then we can maybe do the surgery if your skin is healed enough by then. And so then, of course, I had a lot of anxiety because here I have this growing mass in my body. And I sort of saw it like a monster, like this monster was just growing and getting bigger and bigger in my body. And I didn't know how to stop it. So I had a lot of this anxiety. And I kept asking myself, what else can I do? What else can I do? And I decided to try meditation. And the reason why I decided to try meditation goes back to this story of a man who I met on the beach. And this was back in April of 2018, before I was diagnosed. So at that time, I did not know that I had cancer, but I was sitting on the beach in Ocean Beach. It was a beautiful day. I was in too much pain to surf. So that's why I was kind of just sitting and reading. And an elderly man walked up to me and he said, "Hey, what are you reading?" And we started to have a conversation, and it ended up being like an hour, maybe 2-hour conversation. It was just like a very deep and very powerful conversation. He was telling me a lot about his life story. But one thing that I really will always remember about that conversation is the story he told me about when he had cancer. So he told me this story about him having cancer and stage 4. There was nothing else that doctors could do for him. And he came to the beach basically to surrender, to die. I don't know. He said he wanted to spend his last days at the beach. And so what he ended up doing at the beach was he was just meditating all day. And then he told me that he just started to feel better. So a few months later, after he came to the beach, and he told me he was just living out of his car, basically at the beach. He went back to his doctors and the doctors could not find any trace of cancer in his body. And so at the time I thought, wow, that is just such an amazing story. So I always had that in mind, like meditation is really powerful. And I said goodbye to him. But actually, the last thing that he said to me is, he said, "I don't know why I feel so compelled to talk to you, but I'm sure there's some reason." And then, he's like, "Hope to see you around," and he left. And then 3 weeks later, I was diagnosed with cancer. And I thought about this man and what he said. And I kind of, wish I could see him again. But I actually ended up seeing him again 2 more times. The first time I was driving in my car in my neighborhood, Ocean Beach. And when I finally realized that it was him walking on the sidewalk, I had already driven a couple blocks. So I turned back around and I looked for him, but I couldn't find him anywhere. I saw him again a few weeks later at the Ocean Beach Farmers Market. He was across the way. And so I kind of ran around the outside of the farmers market to look for him, because I wanted to tell him, like, remember our conversation? Well, it turns out that now I was diagnosed with cancer. But again, I couldn't find him. So it was like I spotted him 2 different times after that conversation, but I never actually got a chance to talk to him. So I always just remembered this conversation. And because I had tried everything, I was like, okay, well, what do I have to lose? Of course, I'm going to try this meditation thing. And I had been doing some meditation before, but maybe it was like 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day. I wasn't really trying it seriously. So I started meditating, and I started with Dr. Joe Dispenza meditation. So Dr. Joe Dispenza is somebody who's semi-famous, and he has these great meditations on his website. And somebody at the Oasis of Hope Hospital had recommended him, like his videos, his meditations, for people who are going through like cancer or other illnesses. So I started listening to his meditations, and after 1 week, I felt total peace. I mean, it was like as if all the fear and anxiety just like went out of my body. It was just such a huge difference. And I just had this feeling of like, I know everything's going to be okay. That was after 1 week. And so of course I continued, and then I started doing like more like 2 or 3 hours every day. And I did that for 3 months. Of course, I was not working at this time. So, and what was I doing? I was just laying on my stomach most of the day. I couldn't go for a walk. I couldn't go for a run. I couldn't go surf. So I had the time. And what I noticed during those 2 to 3 months was that I started to be able to sit longer, stand longer, and then even go for little walks or longer or farther and farther. And I even started to reduce my pain medications, which was a big deal for me because they were causing me so much anxiety. But because I was starting to feel less pain, I felt like I could little by little go down on my pain medications. And then I had another MRI in 3 months, which was on May 1st, 2019. And I remember going into this MRI and I had no anxiety. It was almost as if I was going to the dentist, whereas in the past, all of my MRIs were like, I just had so much anxiety and I was constantly like, what if it's bigger? What if it's bigger? And so this was something that was like very drastically different this time. And this was, by the way, like my 9th MRI that I had gotten. And all the previous MRIs showed it was bigger and bigger and bigger. So when these MRI results came in, it was May 2nd, 2019, and the doctors called and said, your tumor has shrunk significantly by about 30%. They were shocked, amazed. I was as well. And so happy, obviously. And I also, just like a few hours later, checked my email and found out that I had won a scholarship to attend a 7-day meditation retreat in Oregon. I had applied a few months ago and I won, and they were going to pay for my tuition, my hotel, and my flight. They were going to pay for everything. So I was so happy this day. I was like, 2 amazing things happened. But also, I will always remember this day because it was the day for me that everything started to turn around for me and get better. So I just wanted to take a step back and talk about this term synchronicity, because I feel like it has a lot to do with my story. And I learned about this term later, but synchronicity is a term coined by Carl Jung. And the definition is basically 2 events connected to one another, not by cause and effect. Or you can think of it like a meaningful coincidence. So the first synchronicity that I had was in April when the man on the beach, the first event, the man on the beach telling me I healed my cancer with meditation. And then me being diagnosed, 3 weeks later. I don't think that's simply a coincidence. I feel like that was a synchronicity. And the second synchronicity was that I won the scholarship to the 7-day meditation retreat in Oregon, and the fact that I got the news my tumor was smaller. So those two events happened on the same day. So I think of that as a synchronicity. A lot of people think of synchronicities as messages from God or the universe, like telling you that you're going in the right direction or kind of giving you a hint about something. And so the message that I got from these two synchronicities was that meditation for me equals healing. And so it was just like a powerful message to me. And I decided not to have the surgery because the 3 months had passed and the UCLA surgeon was calling and say, hey, come up here. We want to see if you can do the surgery. And I said, I think I'm going to postpone, but probably never have the surgery, hopefully. And so I continued to have progress. I continued to meditate every day. I continued to feel better every day, little by little. And then in July of 2019, which was about 3 months after, I went back to work. I moved out of my parents' house and I started surfing again. And this is a picture of me surfing last February in El Salvador. And in September of 2019, I had another MRI, and again, it was even smaller. And by now it had shrunk by 70%. And in October of 2019, I was completely off all my pain medications and I had zero pain. And this was a big, big deal for me because as I was going through the most difficult times, I remember thinking like, if I have to be in a wheelchair, I could be happy, but there's no way that I can be happy or have a good life with this much pain. Like it was just so debilitating and just detrimental to like my mental health that that was like the big thing that I was always praying for. So to be off the pain medications was a huge thing for me. And especially because with morphine, and I mean, I was on morphine, Dilaudid, dexamethasone, gabapentin, muscle relaxers, and I was on the max dose of like everything. And like I said before, I was on 9 different pain medications. I don't even remember like what half of them are called. But just a lot because they were just trying to throw everything at me to like get me to finish my treatment. And then in November of 2019, I could walk normally. I could sit and I could stand for long periods of time. And all of these happened little by little. And about walking, it was like eventually I could walk with the walker. And then after that, I was walking normally, not normally, but I was walking with a limp. So I want to say that for a while I had a limp. And then one day my coworker at UCSD said, oh, you're not walking with a limp anymore. And I had no idea. I didn't notice because everything happened so gradually. But when I looked back, I was like, wow, I've come a long way. So I continued to get MRIs every 6 months at that point. And then the tumor got smaller and smaller every time, all throughout 2020. And then in July 2021, which was just a couple of months ago, something really big happened, which is that the doctors classified me as having no evidence of disease, which was a big deal because they basically don't expect the cancer to come back or to continue growing, that it had shrunk so much that by now it was just considered scar tissue. So this was a big reason to celebrate. And everybody, of course, in my family and my friends were super happy about this, that I was classified as no evidence of disease. And there's actually 3 classifications. There's progression of disease, which means that the tumor is getting bigger. Then there's stable disease, which means it's not getting bigger, but it's not getting smaller. And then there's just no evidence of disease, which is the best news that you could get as a cancer patient. So that was actually just a few months ago because I had, continually seen progress, by now for about 2 years or more. And anyway, in summary, I had tried naturopathic treatments. I went to the Oasis of Hope Hospital in Tijuana, Mexico. I had the high dose proton beam radiation, but even through all of those things, the tumor had still kept growing. But then once I started meditation, I suddenly noticed that things started to turn around and to get better for me. And I want to mention that I don't necessarily believe that it was only meditation that healed me. That's not what I'm saying. But I think it's like was a key that helped my body to start responding to other treatments. So I feel, I'm going to explain that a little bit here, but I feel like there were 3 different ways that I was using my mind to heal the body. And of course, the big one is meditation, but also visualization. And I think the way that it works is that meditation reduces your fear, anxiety, your depression. And I feel like those things are blocks to healing. So you may have heard of the relaxation response or the 2 different types of nervous systems. And our bodies are capable of healing on their own, but we have to be in a relaxed state in order to heal most of the time. That's what I believe. And I also feel like meditation is telling your subconscious mind to heal the body. And basically, it's just making it possible for your body to respond to other treatments and taking away those blocks that you may have. And I also felt like gratitude and appreciation was something that I really made a big practice during this time out of. And I was constantly just trying to hold on to and remember and write down the things that I was grateful for and everything that I appreciated. And it was not that difficult, honestly, because during this time, I was getting showered with love from family, friends, everybody visiting me, sending me flowers, cards, like everybody was always like sending me love. So I was always very grateful for that. And I also really worked at developing a belief that I could heal. So I did this through listening to YouTube videos about how other people healed. I was constantly reading books about how other people had healed from cancer. And basically, I was feeding my mind with the belief that it was possible for me to heal. So other things that I feel also contributed to healing were the friends and family support, as I mentioned before, and prayer. I had many family members telling me, "We're praying for you. My entire church is praying for you." And I also did hypnotherapy and journaling to kind of explore like any suppressed emotions and things like that, which I also felt was really helpful. So my message is that meditation is powerful. It can heal you. But don't ignore your doctors. You should definitely listen to them, but think of meditation, a tool. There's other tools out there like nutrition and alternative therapies. But definitely, I'm not saying to people you should ignore your doctors. I definitely had treatments, and I feel like those definitely contributed to healing as well. And also, a big part of healing is the mind. So, having that belief that you can heal, that it is possible for you to heal or overcome any difficult situation will also help. And I just wanted to mention a couple of the resources. As I said, I did Dr. Joe meditations, and you can get meditations from his website. And he does guided meditations. And I don't believe that you have to do his meditations to get any benefit from meditation. You could do any meditation. You could go to YouTube. There's so many free resources there about meditation. And I think the reason why his meditations really worked for me was because they were longer. So his meditations are maybe 1 or 2 hours. Most people don't want to meditate for 1 or 2 hours. They don't have time. We live busy lives. But that's what I was doing. And I think of it like exercise. If you go exercise for 10 to 15 minutes, you're definitely going to get a benefit from that. But if you if you exercise for 1 hour, it's just going to be more of a benefit. You're going to see more results. So that's how I think of meditation, not only the length of time, but also how deep you can get into it as well. And I was constantly reading. So these were some of the books that I really resonated with, that I felt really helped me. I don't think I have time to go through each one of them, but they were all just really great books that showed me that I could also heal. And they were books that also let me know I was not the only one that healed with meditation. Many other people have as well. So I think that's about it for my story. So I wanted to say thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Wow. Although I've heard this story, I read the story, I listened to your podcast, I talked to you. I'm amazed. And the students, I think, feel so overwhelmed, so emotional, but at the same time, as Trisha put it in the chat, we're all like so proud of you, of your resiliency, of your tenacity, of your relentless spirit of never giving up. And I would like to invite the students and our listeners to share any comments, any questions that they may have. I see Jessica. Jessica, I see your note here. Would you like to address any questions to Crystal? Jessica Steele? Jessica is saying, I'm very interested in your experience of curing the disease through meditation. And she mentioned that there is a man in China who cured thousands of cancer patients for free in a healthy and natural way. Imagining light entering the body from the top of his head to treat cancer, imagining all the water in the body's cells spinning and pulling out all bad molecules from the body. Never heard of this. Jessica, do you want to just share that, or do you have other questions for Crystal?
So I was just going to say that something that I was thinking about was, I mean, I haven't heard of this man, but there's also somebody like that in Brazil. And, you know, there's definitely cases of people who are healed from going to see like a healer. But something that I learned in meditation was how to imagine or visualize a white light coming through and kind of cleansing the body. It's a very common meditation practice, and it definitely has some great effects. So I definitely resonate with that practice of imagining a white light. I'm sure it's very powerful if you have this powerful spiritual person before you doing that as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Crystal, for sharing. And the comments are pouring in. Deborah, did you want to share what you typed in here? I think you can ask to unmute our colleague, Deborah. She's sharing how she's glad and happy that you're healed, and we enjoyed listening to your story. Deborah said, I'm happy you never gave up. I understand about cancer because I have a friend and family member. And Deborah also agrees that relaxation is very important. Sheila, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I apologize if I don't. Sheila, you mentioned to Crystal that she's very brave and courageous, and you made a miracle, and we're very happy for you.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you.
We invite all of you, yes, to raise your hand or
and I was just going to comment on
I'm sorry.
Deborah. Yes. So I would say thank you, Deborah. And I also wanted to mention, yeah, I have, you know, since I've, you know, gone through my own cancer journey, I've had a few friends and family members also start theirs. So something that I say to them is, you know, use meditation as a tool in addition to what you're doing, because that can be very powerful to help you, as it did for me, right?
Thank you, Crystal. I have Jean Hui here, one of our students. She's asking, what are you thinking when you do meditation?
That's a really good question. So my meditations always start with me thinking about what I have to do, what am I going to eat today? And then maybe after 10 minutes, it just kind of goes away after a while. Sometimes it takes me longer. Like sometimes I have a bad day and I can't stop thinking these silly thoughts. But one of the points for there's different methods of meditation, but what we mostly try to do is meditate long enough to where we can empty our mind, and then what I would describe is a lot of times I feel like a weightlessness. So I stop feeling my hands, or I might even just not even feel my body anymore. And it sort of just feels like I'm in space. And that's on like a good day where I have like a really good meditation. But like I said, it always will start off for the first 10 to 15 to 20 minutes of just your thoughts are just running. And it's good to just be aware of them. Like, what are my thoughts? And just sort of to see them as like coming and going, coming and going. And a lot of people, they try meditation, and then after like 15 minutes, they say, I can't do it. I can't stop thinking, but it's probably just because they're not giving it enough time and they're not giving it enough of a chance. And the other thing I would say is a lot of people tell me, I can't meditate, or I tried meditation once and it didn't help me. And I think that's so funny, because if you go to the gym and you work out once and then you say, oh, I went to the gym once, it doesn't work for me, I'm not going to do exercise anymore. For me, that's kind of the same thing, because it takes time. And I think of meditation as like an exercise for your brain. And many of you know, there's so many benefits, because the meditation reduces not only your anxiety or maybe depression, but it also can make you, so it's been proven to make you more resilient. So then when you do have hard times in the future, you're kind of preparing yourself to be able to deal with those things better.
Thank you for sharing that, Crystal. And you know, when I read your story and I found about Dr. Joe Dispenza, I thought, how does he do it? And he says sometimes it takes a lot of time to get into the meditation state. And he says this, and he's a neuroscientist and with so much experience in meditation. So for somebody who's unexperienced like you and me, obviously it takes time. And after all the good things require more time, I think. Let's see. Deborah, I saw you in and out. Did you want to say something? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip you. There are lots of pouring great comments. Everybody admiring you, Crystal, for your resiliency.
Thank you, everyone, for the comments.
I have a question, Crystal.
Yes.
You mentioned that you weren't able to see the man again on the beach that helped you meditate. Have you been able to talk to the proton beam therapy people again, or Oasis, and let them know your current status?
Yes. So Oasis of Hope Hospital emails or calls me every 3 months and asks me how I'm doing. And I can call anytime to talk to the doctors. So it's one of the benefits. So I did call the oncologist once I got my positive MRI, and I called him and I told him, and he was really happy for me. And then you also asked, and then the radiologist who gave me proton beam therapy, I see him every 6 months. And now we're going to go to once a year. But he's the one who gave me the report, no evidence of disease. He's the one who reads my MRI reports and gives them to me. So yes, we are still in contact. That's a good question. And it's nice to see them, because I really have a big heart for my radio oncologist who treated me. And, you know, when I started getting better, everybody wanted to take credit for, you know, what worked. But the truth is, I don't know exactly how much the clinic in Mexico worked. I don't know like what percentage of it was radiation and what percentage of it was meditation, but everybody wanted to take like 100%. Like even my chiropractor was like, see, ever since you started coming to see me, you're just getting better. And then, you know, of course, my family members say, oh, you know, it's because of the prayers. So everybody has their opinion, and I don't disagree with anybody. I just say, this is what, you know, for me, the meditation piece is more powerful because I had those synchronicities. So I feel like those kind of stay with me, but I never want to discount anything else that I did that was helpful for me.
That's awesome. We're so proud of you.
Thank you for the question.
I got muted again, right? I think this is a question from Summer. She's asking, do you think we can do meditation at home? And is meditation like talking to yourself without real talk?
So the first question was, do you think you can do meditation at home? Yes, 100%. And that's the best place to do it because you want it to be easy. Like some people, they just wake up, they don't even get out of bed. They just meditate before they start their day. There's different ways you can do it. You can do it sitting up, laying down. Some people say it's better to be sitting up because when you lay down, you go to sleep, and sleeping is not meditation. You don't get the same benefit. So if you're tired, it's better to sit up and do your meditation. What was the second question? Can you repeat that?
I think it says, just let me see. Is meditation like talking to yourself without real talk, like an internal conversation?
It can be. It can be. I think of talking to yourself like there's the practice affirmations where you look into a mirror and you say like positive things to yourself, which I also think is great. But in meditation, I think it depends on the type of meditation you're doing, but most types of meditations just want you to stop thinking and be still or just observe your thoughts, but without any judgment. And that's not always easy. But just something that happened for me when I was meditating and I got really quiet and I just emptied out my mind, I would just have these profound realizations about myself, about my childhood, about just something that I needed to let go of, something that, yeah, a lot of things that I just realized I need to let go of this. And so I feel like you'll be emptying your mind and then you have like kind of this profound realization. And something that I've heard before, which I really love, is that they say prayer is talking to God, but meditation is listening to God. So I feel like that's how it felt sometimes, that I was just listening. And then something would like, then it would be like, I have this feeling or this realization about something in my life that maybe is not good or I need to let go of, or something that I need to do. Or sometimes it was just like, I need to call this person. And a lot of times it would turn out to be that this person was having a really bad day, you know, a friend or a family member. So a lot of it is your intuition. So when you clear out all your thoughts, you have access to your intuition. And when we're busy and we're going through our daily lives, we don't really listen to our intuition. So I think it's a big part is that of meditation is listening, and it's an easier way to access your intuition. And then also your intuition gets stronger because of meditation. So then you might have a feeling of like for example, you don't know if you should take this job or that job. I mean, I feel like meditation is like one of the best things that you can do. Like I would do journaling, but then when I would do meditating, I would just get a different answer. So I feel like I would rely on that more, because when I journal, my problem is that I use my analytical mind too much. And when I make decisions, I would prefer to make it from my intuition. So for me, it's more like a listening exercise.
Thank you, Crystal. Cesar, would you like to ask your question? Cesar Buitrago.
Hi, Cesar.
I think he's ready. Can we unmute him? Nora?
Okay.
Hi, Cesar.
Thank you, Cesar.
Hi, how are you, Crystal?
Hi.
Has been incredible, history that you, tell us today. But I have a question about all of the things that you passed, with different kind of medicine, different kind of medication, everything, a different doctor, different city that you had to go to Mexico. But my question is that when you see that anything, getting positive result, about all the treatment that they made it to you, what made you feel when you saw the man on the beach? Because what I see, myself, that something happened there. Something there is somebody that's sending you a message that, okay, Crystal, you pass for everything. I mean, you never give up about that. You feel that you're gonna get healed. And then somebody sent this man on the beach. And then after that moment, you take the decision to follow, the meditation.
Mhm.
What made you feel that, it's going to, how do you grab, from that, message that the man was telling you? Because you said that for intuition, you can be healed, but I guess there is more thing that, inside your heart, inside your mind, that, okay, I feel, 100% that the message sending me, the man on the beach, is really true. And then
Mhm.
I'm gonna be healed. What make you feel, stronger in order that you're gonna make it, you're gonna conquer, the cancer, in that way?
Yeah, that's a great question, Caesar. So, um, like I mean, at the time, like I said, when I met the man on the beach, I just thought, wow, what a great story. Like, what an incredible conversation, because it's just so random that somebody comes up to you and starts talking to you. I mean, we have strangers talk to us all the time, like maybe at the grocery store or whatever, but just to have this kind of conversation was pretty profound for me, but more profound once I realized that I had cancer. And I think the reason why I didn't start meditating right away was because I had a lot of fear and doubt. And I was thinking, maybe that worked for him, but why would it work for me? Type of thing. But then I felt like I was continually being guided to do meditation. So, not only from the man, but also from like a woman that I met at Oasis of Hope Hospital. She was the one who told me about Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations and things like that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but some people ask me like, do you think that this man was like an angel? And my answer is, I don't know, because maybe it was, but maybe it was, or maybe it was just a regular guy. And he was, like I said, he's a meditator. He meditates a lot. He's a very spiritual person. So he probably has the intuition that, oh, I need to talk to this girl. I don't know why, but I'm just going to talk to her. That is intuition. When we do things, we don't understand why. Most of us don't act on our intuition. We're not going to go talk to some stranger if we don't understand the reason why. But I think if you have if you really do like truly listen to your intuition, maybe you would. So yeah, it was definitely a powerful experience, and maybe he was an angel, maybe he was just following his intuition. I don't know, but I'm definitely a spiritual person, so I definitely believe it could be possible. Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the resources that you said is you developing the belief. How are you gonna develop that belief? Because there is one way to develop that belief is when you believe that something, you're gonna get result, positive result. But how do you get, that? How do you gonna develop that belief in order to get, complete heal?
Yeah, I think that developing the belief is a big part of the piece of using the mind. And yeah, I just think that, like I said, reading the books and also the YouTube videos about other people. And I think that after I did that so much, I mean, I was listening to YouTube videos like 3 or 4 times a day, 3 or 4 different people. And I always thought, if this person can heal, I can heal. And they were normal people. They were not like Buddhist monks or anything. So, they could do it, then I can do it. And yes, I think that was a big part of the puzzle of giving my mind that belief system.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Cesar.
Thank you, Cesar, and thank you, Crystal. There are different comments in the chat, Crystal. You'll be surprised. or maybe not. Some of our colleagues, Richard, and I think one of our students, Victor, and I think another student there, I apologize. Some of the students use the same name, their teacher's name, Deborah, so it shows like 11 Deborahs. So there is a question, have you ever thought about leading a meditation team? And our colleague, our librarian, Richard Ma, is asking if you'd like to do that on the campus when we're back.
I would love to. Yes. So since I've had my experience, I have had, a few friends or maybe family members ask me to teach them meditation. And it's definitely something I want to explore. So during COVID, I did take like an online meditation teacher training where I learned some more about different types. And I see that's something that I would like to pursue more in the future, just because it's made such a big difference in my life, and I would love to teach it to other people. So thank you for the question. And yes, I would definitely be interested in that.
Thank you. Our attendees are happy to hear that. Lynn, how was your meal program? My student Lynn is asking this question. How was your meal program?
That's a great question. So I definitely believe that nutrition and the way we eat is important. And I definitely believe that, eating too much sugar and, animal products and alcohol and all of these things definitely can contribute to cancer. I was a very healthy eater before I got cancer. So I wasn't perfect. I definitely had ice cream and, a glass of wine or whatever. But I mean, I was pretty healthy before I got cancer. So I didn't know, I just had this feeling like if I'm already eating healthy before I get cancer, like I don't smoke, I'm not a big drinker. I really am careful about what I eat before I got cancer. I just didn't have this feeling that it would change after I got cancer. But I still I really had this desire to just like drink green juices and eat like super healthy vegetarian. That's what I wanted to do. But the reality is that I was living with my parents. My mom was making me meals. My mom, I love her to death, but just doesn't believe that food would make a difference. So, but she was great. Like she would buy me the healthy things, but then I would smell her cooking, like something amazing. And I would say, I want that instead. So it was hard for me to control my appetite, especially because I was on really strong steroids. And if anybody has ever been on steroids, you know that steroids really increases your appetite a lot. So I just wasn't good about what I was eating. I mean, I wasn't horrible, but I just wasn't able to have this like perfect diet that if maybe I had been living alone and, in my own house, and if I were able to make my own meals, I'm sure that I would have been much better. But the reality was I was living with my parents. They constantly had cookies and cheesecake and these kind of things. And then I was on steroids. So I wasn't good with my eating at all. I was really bad, actually. But it was a big source of stress for me. So one of the other sources of anxiety that I had was I wanted to eat healthy, but I just didn't have the discipline in that environment. So thank you for asking. That's a good question. But now that I'm on my own, I am back to eating healthy again. So, I definitely think it would, for some people, I believe, if they are really eating unhealthy and they are smoking cigarettes, then of course, if that's what causes the cancer, then definitely the nutrition will have much more of an effect, I think, for them, definitely.
Thank you, Crystal. Maybe we can take one last question. I think, Dora, would you like to address that question live, Dora?
Hi, Dora.
Dora, you can do it.
She did it.
Yeah. Thank you for share, Crystal, your story, because I have I believe in the meditation and also in prayer because I am religious, that I know And also last, I have by genetics, maybe to have a cancer, maybe I don't know where, but I am only thinking about that case. Sometimes I'm worried, but now I'm not going to be in that way because I know we can manage our mind, our brain, and then I am doing. I think I am aging great because I am using my effort to do exercise. And with your example, I'm going to be in the same way, do not have cancer, because every day I say I'm not the same as my parents. They or two, both of them died with cancer, colon cancer. And last year I was afraid with this because I have pain during the COVID. I have pain in my colon, and I was thinking about that. And my son, who lives in Peru, he's a specialist in gastroenterologist, and he says no. You have to maybe it could be cancer colon because your genetics is in that way, but thinking like you, I teach my brain, no, I'm not going to be, because I always live healthy, I eat healthy, I'm doing exercise, and that's with it's your speech help me to think in good way, right
That's
way.
great.
Thank you for sharing. This is an example and I admire too. Like you always show happy, not sad, never sad. That is when I saw you and read your speech is good for me and it's a great example. Even I am like your grandma.
Thank you, Dora.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Dora. And you mentioned a couple things that I thought about that I wanted to mention. So you said something about like genetics, and a lot of us might have like this genetic predisposition to a certain type of cancer. But something that I read kind of over and over is it's not always so much the genes, but it's like you might have a genetic predisposition, but it's your lifestyle that may turn it on or off. And then not only your lifestyle, but emotions as well, and your thoughts. So it's great to have these thoughts like, I'm going to be great, I'm going to be fine, but also to be realistic. And if you do have some pain, definitely go to the doctor and get that checked out. But of course, it's not good to have the fear or the worry. So just, getting that checked out as soon as you can. And then, having these positive thoughts definitely will help. So thank you, Dora.
Thank you so much, Crystal and students. There were numerous comments, Crystal, everybody admiring your persistence, your resiliency, your indomitable character. I love to see students writing words like resilient and tenacious, and I thought, wow, our students are learning. So thank you for being an inspiration to all of us. Thank you for dedicating your time to be with us and sharing your story. I am humbled by it and very grateful to have had you in our space with us today. I'm gonna let everybody go because I know a lot of us may have another class to attend or to teach. Thank you for your time, Crystal. Students, you can join us tonight too from 7:30. Make sure you registered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.